I want to create something that's sacred, something that, would be printed in a National Geographic article, something that has a mystery and soul to it, and a story and a lifestyle to it versus something that's just pretty. I was just playing around with chalk one night and somebody tipped me. Figured, what the hell, right? Give it another shot, and made no money the next day. But kind of stayed at it in the last little while, sold at Venus Envy, going on almost 3 years ago now. Tried at Plan B briefly. Wasn't too successful there. Other than that, I pretty much just kind of like, kind of busk and sell on the streets, like to tourists and wayward travelers.
It's really popping.
Yeah. To be honest, like, I don't really like the process of the art too much. Like obviously my hands will kind of like bleed. It's almost like a labor, it's almost like a birthing process, right? My hands will bleed, my knees will give out. At the end of the night, my whole body's kind of like on fire, and I gotta like put up with the weather, seagulls, like drunk people. The art in a way scars you physically and mentally so that you take it with you. So that when it washes away, it's still kind of on your own. The essence is washed into your body, and you can always splash it back onto the ground again, so to speak. But at the same time, it's kind of neat how art at its purest form can be used for like storytelling and healing in a way. You can tell like a society or a person's fears and dreams and aspirations through their work, I guess you can say. If there's a pure intent there, you can really, it's kind of like a reflection, like an abstract, colorful kind of mirror in a way. So it's always kind of neat, like I was always kind of interested in art more in the anthropological terms. Like I didn't really like art museums as much as, museums of natural history. Petroglyphs on a mountainside, ruins in some temple, jungle area somewhere, and wondering what does it mean, where did it come from, like why, like kind of like the sacred aspects to it, if one could use that word, is what intrigues me about art. It's funny, right? Because like I don't really think anybody's art is original, like whatsoever. Like I think people are actually quite I don't want to say stunned. Like we can always perfect and get better, artistically and poetically. But I think the subject matter is kind of innately into us. Like what you mentioned with animals and women is the earliest art was that of just that. The very first calendars were based on, the cycles of the moon and the woman's menstrual cycle, the hunt, of the rutting season of the animals, men in a way kind of pour their psyche and soul into that of the woman's form, like animals and women in nature, like, whether it's Artemis and the bear cult of ancient Greece, or Coatlicue, the great serpent-skirted Aztec goddess. Recurrent themes are essentially like, I think are innately hardwired into us, like it's almost like it's all there coiled, with our own DNA, from conception, and it just kind of gets reawakened, with time, like, you have these ancient goddess sculptures going back thousands of years, like some of them, tens of thousands of years, and they're not just fertility objects, they're not just sexual objects of lust, that's an aspect to them, But in reality, it's the same thing when you see animal animals depicted in say native art. It's not just hunting fetishes. There's a whole philosophy. There's a whole lifestyle, and there's a whole you know those objects in a way possess their own lives. You know the you know it's not just a woman's body. It's not like a you know, time and time again, I'll get people like, well, make the tits bigger, you know, because on the sidewalk chalk, it's just a sex object, a woman's body, or people will think it's like a anti-abortion protest thing because sometimes the model is depicted pregnant, and I give like it's almost like they infuse their own fears and wants into the into the depiction of this spiritual feminine form. It's kind of interesting, right? My mother has Ojibwe heritage, so when that language, bear, the word for bear is makwa. It's actually quite similar to the Mi'kmaq language here, which their word is muin. But regardless, anywhere around the world, wherever bears lived, there was like a veneration to them. It'll be marked with the blood from their birth, but God only tells, you know. And sometimes, you know, I figure, you know, I'll die young and it'll just, you know, get thrown in storage or auctioned off. So all I can do is my best and, you know, take care of it, you know, and value it. And give it the respect that it deserves. You know, it's kind of a big responsibility. When my grandfather was passing away, it's right, there's nothing's ever free in life, I guess you can say. That you can take to the bank, I suppose. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, it has a power to it. For sure, and, you know, maybe someday I'll pass it along. Probably a half year now that I inherited it. It was years and years and years before, like prior to that, like I had a tiny piece of a claw, not a whole claw, just like a tiny piece. It almost looked like a dog claw. It was just the skin of the nail. The feathers are painted, and the feathers up here, which are feathers, not plants, like not leaves or anything. That's I think Malaysian mustache parrot. But I recognized it the first moment I saw it. Their teeth are so human-like in the back, but their front teeth quite large, I suppose. Grizzly bear, though, even bigger. And a polar bear's wouldn't even compare to a black bear. That power to her, and that mystery. And that, in a way, was almost sacred to me in the same way a Quran or a Bible is to the next person. You know, like it was like touching, you know, something physical that art that I create represents to me, I guess you could say. And now that I have the skull, it kind of rests on an altarpiece. And that's where she sits now, and maybe someday I'll pass it along. Bears as well have been linked to the feminine, I guess, you know, in the sense that they make such protective mothers and powerful caregivers. And for me, the mother bear is almost synonymous with it's like a power in the sense. A man will say, well, how can I relate to that, you know, not being a mother? But, you know, anybody can get into that role, anybody could be that protector, that nurturer, that caregiver, that teacher. Media wise, like I'm not a big painter. Like kind of like working with watercolors like lately, but can't really stand acrylics. Oils take way too long to like dry, and so like I guess I didn't really get a lot of painting practice, and I find like canvases really restrict my work. So media wise is pretty much anything but paints. I work with a lot of chalk, feathers, stone, copper, as well as a bit of aluminum and bronze occasionally, and so I kind of use whatever I have. Like I'll even like draw shapes into the sand, or from the steam from the showers. A lot of very temporary artwork. Or what appears to be temporary. Ethereal. Like the chalk and the sand, it all like washes away and blows away. But for me, like I was always influenced by, say, like what really stands out is, say, like sand art, like from Australia, for instance, kind of was an influence on me, and how if one has like a built-in mythology and value system, they can kind of constantly recreate the subject matter. So even though the art itself only lasts days, hours, months, versus like years or decades or centuries, if those beliefs are still passed along, you can kind of constantly perfect and regrow the artwork. Where a piece is limited on a canvas, and it's a snapshot of of one's work at that time, and I guess you can take it off the wall and then rework it once in a while and change it about. But the chalk murals, they can constantly regrow, so when they're washed away finally, like you could start one day, and 2 or 3 days later you'll have a piece that's 3 times its size and totally different, by building onto it. And when it washes away, you can then go over it with new colors, or a completely new piece. But where it all came from kind of stays the same, like the essence of it is kind of like up here, really. But yeah. Can I taking a break from everything really at this point. I got out of high school, bit of university. Never really finished university due to a lot of things at my life, like health and mental health and stuff. So I took a bit of a break from that, and other than that, like I'm trying to find employment, but it's kind of tough in the city at this point. Like it's like seems to be a lot of desperation, like I find in this province, and it all kind of swells kind of in the center of Halifax. And people kind of, they'll come here for education, and they'll head back, wherever they came from, and it's kind of like a forgotten province. But no, other than that, I don't really have, I worked at a museum a few years back, like worked in a movie theater, tree planting kind of thing, general labor, grew up on a farm, but don't really, kind of been like stagnant the last little while, like with personal things, but hoping to get out of the rut and maybe see where tomorrow kind of takes me. Yeah.